Titus is a short but rich letter from Paul to his mentee and fellow worker Titus, providing practical instructions for church leadership and Christian living. Its focus is on how gospel transforms both belief and behavior, equipping believers to live godly lives and shine as examples of Christ and his work in this world. So, background, it was written around 63 AD during his Paul's travels between his first and second Roman imprisonments. Titus, a trusted companion of Paul, was a Greek convert who had been left on the island of Crete to organize and strengthen the churches there. Crete was known for its immorality, dishonesty, and corruption. We see that in the 12th verse. The churches were young and susceptible to false teachings. Uh, so Paul wrote to guide Titus in setting up sound leadership and encouraging believers to live out the gospel in their daily lives. So key themes are qualifications for church elders, living in accordance with the gospel, and devotion to good works. So first 16 verses of first chapter, Paul begins with a greeting that emphasizes his calling as a servant of God, an apostle of Christ. He reminds Titus of their shared mission to strengthen the faith of God's elect and their knowledge of the truth. First verse, Paul, a servant of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ, to further the faith of God's elect and their knowledge of the truth that leads to godliness. Basically, Paul instructs Titus to appoint elders in every town, outlining the qualifications for church leaders. So these elders must be blameless, faithful to their families, and known for their self-control, hospitality, and sound teaching. Seventh verse you can see. Since an overseer manages God's household, he must be blameless, not overbearing, not weak-tempered, not given to drunkenness, not violent, not pursuing dishonest gain. Paul warns against uh, false teachers who were disrupting the church with empty talk and deception. He quotes a local saying about the Cretans, they being liars, evil brutes, lazy gluttons, and challenges Titus to rebuke them sharply to bring them back to sound faith. Verse 13, rebuke them sharply, so they will be sound in the faith. So second chapter 15 verses, Paul transitions to practical instructions for various groups within the church, emphasizing how sound doctrine leads to transformed lives. So 1 to 10 verses of the second chapter, he addresses older men, older men, young women, and young men, and slaves, and encouraging each group to live lives consistent with the gospel. He stresses self-control, respect, love, and faithfulness in relationships. So key verses 7th and 8th in the second chapter. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned. And then 11th to 15 verses, Paul highlights the motivation for godly living. The grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all people. This grace teaches believers to say no to ungodliness and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives while waiting for Christ's return. So 11th and 12th chapter. For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright and godly lives in this present age. So Paul urges Titus to teach these truths with authority, encouraging and rebuking as necessary. First 15 verses of the third chapter, Paul reminds Titus to teach believers to submit to rulers, authorities, to be obedient, to be ready to do good. Christians are called to speak evil of no one and to live peaceably and humbly. Uh, First verse of third chapter, remind the people to be subject to rulers and authorities and to be obedient, to be ready to do whatever is good. And then 3 to 8 verses of third chapter, Paul recounts the transformative power of the gospel, reminding believers of their former sinful nature and how God, in His kindness and love, saved them from that state of sinfulness, not because of their righteous work, but through His mercy. Third chapter, fifth verse. He saved us not because of righteous things we had done, but because of His mercy. He saved us through the washing of rebirth and renewal by the Holy Spirit. So Paul underscores that this salvation motivates believers to devote themselves to uh, do good works. These good works must be excellent and profitable for everyone. Basically, we are dealing with the completed work of God, completed work of Christ on the cross. So now, ninth to 11th verses of this third chapter, Paul warns against foolish controversies, genealogies, and quarrels about the law, which are unprofitable and at the same time they are useless. He instructs Titus to avoid divisive people after a first and second warning. See the ninth verse. But avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are basically unprofitable and useless. Now 12th to 15th verses, Paul closes with practical matters, encouraging Titus to join him when a replacement is sent and urging the church to help those in need. He ends with a blessing of grace. Our people must learn to devote themselves to doing what is good in order to provide for urgent needs and not live unproductive lives. So, key themes: leadership in the church, sound doctrine leads to godly living, and the grace of God as motivation, and devotion to good works, guarding against false teaching and division. So, why Titus matters today? This remains a why. This Titus uh, is a vital guide for church leaders and members alike. It reminds us that our faith must be visible in how we live, lead, and interact with others. It challenges us to prioritize godly leadership, embrace transformed living, commit to good works, and guard the truth. So, through its timeless wisdom, Titus calls us to reflect Christ's glory in both belief and action, transforming our communities for His kingdom. So, do a detailed studying, meditating on this book of Titus, and yeah, comment in the comment section what you learned from this letter. It's wonderful to note how Paul, like Timothy and Titus, he encourages them in the faith. Not only that, in his absence also he sends them letters urging them to live or stand as per the truth of the gospel. So thank you once again for staying with me to understand the depth of these letters. God bless you.